What's going on, everyone? Thanks for tuning in to another episode of the Unracked podcast. We're helping gym rats of all levels to enhance their fitness and other aspects of their lives through conversation and firsthand experiences. We're your hosts. I'm Mike Gersh.
And I'm Josh Angel.
In our last episode, we took a deep dive into working out as a busy professional, whether that be work or school. And in today's episode, we want to go full Mythbusters and we're going to debunk some common myths and misconceptions about getting started in the gym and sustaining your gains long term.
Mm-hmm.
So, I feel like there are a lot of common misconceptions and myths that go into the gym that either get people thrown off track or they just make it so they don't get started at all. Um, or another category, I guess, is like being too hyper focused on one thing that really isn't as big of a variable as people think, which that's the first one I want to talk about
You
is
know, before we get into it, can I say the number one that I think it is, real quick?
sure.
Because we were talking about this earlier. Actually, man, is that the biggest myth is that you don't need to roll up your shorts to lift to squat. You don't need to you don't need to tuck them in, right?
Yeah, I mean there's the saying look good, feel good, lift good, but
Yeah.
I think that's more mental than actual physical benefit to rolling up your shorts
Yeah.
on a squat.
Like you don't need to like give yourself a wedgie, right? To squat heavy. Squat for an RPE 10.
The gym fits half the battle, bro.
Gym. Yeah, it is half the battle, but I think if anything, you're restricting yourself, right?
No, more clothes would be restricting.
uh, if they were loose, that would be a different story. But anyways, I was just messing around. Let's just we'll dive into the real tips here.
In true Josh fashion, we started out with a big troll. No, so the first one is I'm gonna put this into the category of hyper focusing on a variable that doesn't matter as much as some people think this that oh my gosh, on a variable that doesn't matter as much as some people may think it does. Um, this is something I was actually very guilty of myself. Is the anabolic clock. So anyone who's listened to us knows anabolic just means like the process of building muscle. And the anabolic clock is ticking, right? So when I first started lifting, someone told me if you don't eat a certain amount of protein within 30 minutes of working out, then your workout was pointless and you're not going to recover and you're not going to make the gains, blah, 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 this, that, and the other thing. Josh, is that something that you had heard before?
Yeah, definitely. But you know what? I watched a video of. Well, this is probably before my time. Like, cause I lifted. I started lifting a little bit, before you. Uh, but this was like I was watching a Greg Doucette video and he was saying that apparently like back when he was like lifting and stuff, like when information was like less on the internet, he was saying that people were just, well, this was at the forums. He was saying people were like eating, they will wake up in the middle of the night to eat to make sure they get protein like every 2 hours. So people were apparently like waking up like 11, 12 o'clock and then like downing like protein because they were worried about the anabolic window, like you said, or like getting a certain amount of protein like every 2 hours, and that's pretty crazy to me. Like imagine like you sleeping, like all right, 12 o'clock, waking up, getting some protein in, going back to sleep, another 2 hours or like 4 hours, you wake back up, get more protein in. Like dude, that sounds horrible.
Well, I think that's the same idea of like hyper fixating on a variable, but it's just the exact opposite execution, right? Because realistically, the biggest tell of like protein goal and like solidifying gains and recovery and all that, it's just gonna be your daily caloric intake minus your daily caloric expenditure. It's as easy as that. Obviously, if you're just front loading like 3/4 of your protein in breakfast, like, no, your body's not going to be able to digest all of that. I'm saying do it in a reasonable way where you're not driving yourself crazy, having to have a protein shake immediately after you work out 100% of the time, or to Josh's point, driving yourself crazy to the point where you're eating every 2 hours. You're literally setting an alarm, waking up in the middle of the night to eat more protein. And then, I mean, again, in the idea of recovery, that's just going to mess with your sleep. You're not going to get into that deep of a sleep, along with the fact that you're kind of probably at that point over consuming protein too.
Yeah. I mean, it's a different story if you're like actually bulking up, eating 2 hours, but like you don't need to disturb your sleep to do that. Like during the hours you're awake.
But even at that, I would say every 2 hours is aggressive unless
Yeah,
it's like
yeah,
a small snack,
yeah.
because
Not a full course
the
meal for sure.
a lot of humans, and I guess this is something that can fall into a misconception as well. A lot of humans have or people have a misconception of what hunger truly is. Most of the time, I would say more times than not, people aren't hungry. They have cravings. And there's a big difference. If you're hungry, what that really means is you've burned more calories than you've taken in. That's what hunger truly is. So a lot of people have like triggers, for example, like if you eat in front of the TV, every time you turn the TV on, you're going to get a trigger mentally and you're going to become hungry when in reality, it's just a craving. So that's why a lot of fitness people who are very strict about their diet, they call it I even use the term myself, strict, and B, people are like, "Oh, you're so disciplined to be able to stick to the diet," when in reality
You're
it's
just
just
better than
like,
them.
yeah. No, it's not even that. But I mean, again, you understand where I'm going with that. So
Yeah. You know what triggers me more than an angry Karen trying to talk to the manager is carbs. Those really, grind my cravings. That's why I try to stay away from them, when I'm trying to diet down. If you're bulking, it's okay to eat. Easy to get your
well,
calories in like that.
I think that's another common misconception about nutrition is carbs are the enemy. This is going to be true for anything, and I'm going to preface this by saying, because I can see Josh ready to jump out of his seat over there.
I'm actually laying
Josh
back.
has a very Josh
I'm
Josh has a
chilling.
very I wouldn't call it extreme, but a very specific diet when it comes to keto, right? So that's something that Josh eats in a specific way that is very low carb, but in reality, for the general gym goer, moderation is going to be key, right? You don't want to overeat fat, you don't want to overeat carbs. Carbs are directly linked to energy, and like we've talked about in past episodes, how they create glycogen in the muscles and they're good for the pump, so on and so forth, right? So they have all these benefits. So they're not the enemy. Your overconsumption of carbs is the enemy. So eat it in moderation, and then obviously if you're a keto guy like Josh, that moderation is going to be a lot lower of a number. But I think that's a common misconception, is that carbs are the enemy. What do you have to say about that, Josh?
Nothing really. I mean, the only thing I have to say is that I think it's the sugar that really gets to you or gets to people. It's because that's what really gives you that craving, and I don't know the science behind it, but I feel like when I have sugar, I get more thirsty, and I think that's what people like don't drink. That's in my mind. I think people think that as hunger, so they'll just eat more instead of just drinking
Mm-hmm.
more water. Cause like if I'm eating like a piece of candy, like you should just like or something with a lot of sugar, that's gonna make you thirsty. And instead of like eating more of it, you should just drink water. I think that's the same thing honestly with like soda. People just consume more soda because they're thinking they're thirsty, but in reality, it's just they should be drinking more water instead. But then people just tend to drink more soda. Like, oh, I'm so thirsty. I'm just gonna drink more soda.
Exactly. And the thing about sugar too, again, it's okay to have like a little bit, but it's when you overconsume sugar, that's when it spills over into a lot of other categories. Like when I would eat a lot of sugar, I feel like I would like break out a lot and my skin would just be like disgusting. I feel like my diet would kind of be turned over because like if I overate sugar, it would like kind of slow everything down internally, like when it came to like digesting and things like that. So the overconsumption of sugar, and it would definitely like affect like my mood and my energy, right? Which I think another kind of going into another misconception is going to be about caffeine. So I think this is something, I think we talked about this in a pretty recent episode, but caffeine is another thing that in moderation can have its benefits, but most people overdo it with caffeine and then they get all of the negative results. Um, because one thing that I see a lot is caffeine, number one, dehydrates you. So, like Josh said, the more caffeine you drink, it's addictive. You're going to continue to drink more. So, not only are you not drinking water, you're drinking something that's actively dehydrating you. Caffeine also speeds up your metabolism. So this goes back to the hunger versus cravings, where your body is going to be digesting at a faster rate. So therefore, you're going to need to intake more food to slow down the feeling of cravings down the road, since you just digested and went through that snack or meal pretty quickly after the caffeine. And then the third one is a lot of people get like that, like almost like cracked out, like tunnel vision feeling from caffeine, right? And that is just a combination of those two things of not eating enough, especially not eating enough protein, and not drinking enough water. And so I think the misconception is that when you drink too much caffeine, you get cracked out, when in reality it's just like the side effect of like the lack of food leading to cravings, and the lack of water and the active dehydration leading to all of those other secondary effects.
So you're saying that, I mean, with caffeine, is it like you're saying people misconcept like pre-workout or like someone drinking like a cup of coffee? Because like I don't really know people that say like, oh, I'm gonna get cracked out, drinking a cup of coffee. But I mean, it's a different story if you say pre-workout. Like, there's for sure a lot of people saying like, oh no, like I hear it's crazy, drinking a pre-workout or something. Like, oh, I don't want to.
No, I mean, I working in an office setting, especially working in sales, people drink a lot of caffeine. Like,
Like coffee, or
let me
just like they're drinking like a supplement or something, like a powder supplement.
I would majority say coffee, but you can obviously work in like energy drinks. Like
Oh yeah,
I drink a
energy
lot of
drinks.
Ghost. Like people drink like Red Bulls, Monsters, and stuff. You know what I mean? So,
Okay.
and then plus you get so busy at work that in our last episode we talked about working out as a busy professional, where you want to prioritize being able to intake this protein over something like caffeine, where caffeine is just going to be like a band-aid over a cut, as opposed to like when you really need stitches to fix the problem and stop the bleeding.
Because I would even say caffeine. I mean, like energy drinks, people are pretty scared of drinking those too. Like even the Red Bulls, like that one's like, dude, that has like no caffeine like at all. Almost, it's like around a cup of coffee or like even less. And people are scared of even drinking that. They're like, oh no, like, oh, I don't want to get too crazy. It's just like a Red Bull is like the smallest amount of caffeine. Like you got to drink like four of those things to really get crazy. So
I
I
mean,
th-
it depends who you are, man. Like a lot of people have very different caffeine tolerance levels. We just have high tolerance levels because we
well
drink
no well
pre-workout every day and all that. I mean, look at Leo, bro. Like he
well
drinks like
well
a thousand
the
milligrams
dude
of caffeine a
a
day
Red
and it
Bull
doesn't even affect him.
a Red Bull has like 50 or like, and I know a cup of coffee has more than that.
No, a Red Bull has to have like,
It's not
I would say
100.
closer to 100, yeah. In what size?
Like the regular like 12 ounce.
How
Definitely not
much
the,
caffeine in a 12-ounce Red Bull?
because those are like the most common ones, the 12 ounce.
The 8.64 has 80 milligrams.
Okay.
So the 12 would probably have around 120, or
Okay,
it's 111, and a cup of coffee is 98. I know that. So
98.
there's
So it's
there's literally
kind of
more.
close. Yeah.
There's more in a 12-ounce Red Bull, and I don't, to be honest, I don't think I've ever met anyone that buys the 8.4-ounce Red Bull.
Yeah, I do honestly, cause I haven't bought a Red Bull in a while, but like the last time I checked, I'm pretty sure I thought it was under 100, at least for sure, 100 milligrams.
Well, yeah,
But
on the
yeah,
small one it is, but again,
well the thing is, I
as
don't, I
someone who drinks caffeine consistently, I can honestly say I've never bought the 8.4-ounce Red Bull unless it comes in that like 4 pack when it's on sale for like $6.
no, that's what I'm saying too. Like I don't buy the 8 ounce either. I always get like at least a 12. So that's why I'm like, I thought that 12 at least had, it was still under 100. So yeah, 100 is pretty decent, and it is a little bit more than a cup of coffee.
Yeah, so
Yeah.
again, it's the similar idea to carbs, right? Caffeine's not the enemy. Caffeine in moderation is the way to do it. Because like we talked about it's just a chemical that triggers something in your brain that shuts off the like command in your brain or the signal in your brain that tells you you're tired. So it's not actually making you not tired, it's just turning that signal off.
You know what? I think is another myth, which is like it's just a sad myth too, because like you keep what the first reason you actually start drinking coffee is because you feel tired. Like think about like when you first started drinking coffee. This could be anybody who's listening. Uh, like you think like, oh, you need some energy to keep you going, so you start drinking coffee, but then you do the same thing again the next day, and then the next day, and then your body starts getting dependent on it, where it needs it every day. With reality, the first few days that you did it, you might have not really needed it. You could have pushed through, but and it gets worse and worse throughout the years or throughout the months. You keep drinking caffeine, and it just becomes a cycle, essentially. And that's probably like the sad truth of like caffeine is like you just need to keep drinking it, because otherwise, if you stop drinking it, then your body starts going into like a what's it called?
Withdrawal.
Yeah, there we go, withdrawal, pretty much.
No, it's literally a drug, bro.
Mm-hmm.
I've said this before on the podcast, but
This is the first time you saying this, dude.
no shot. Where's the editor? Tell him to fucking
I'm the
check the
fucking
clips.
editor, dude.
No, where's
Oh, that.
what's his
Oh,
name?
okay, okay. I thought you meant like
Rajesh?
the YouTube editor. Okay, okay. You're right. You're right. You're right.
Um, no, yeah, but exactly. So similar idea, just do it in moderation and monitor all those other variables. One other myth that I've heard too, this is something that I feel like it's a one-way street, this myth. It works one way, but it doesn't work the other way. So this is something called spot reduction. I don't know if you've ever heard of that, Josh. Essentially, people think that you can target a specific area on your body to lose fat. Like, obviously, the main thought behind this is going to be like losing belly fat to see the six pack. So, what I mean when I say this is a two-way street, obviously, you can be very intentional with how you work out, of where you want to build muscle, right? Like if you have a weak point, you can target it more. If you have a strong point in your physique, you can work it less. Obviously, there are some muscles, like we talked about, like the core, for example, that's going to indirectly get some of this work, but it doesn't work the other way around, where if I say I want to lose belly fat, I can't just lose belly fat. I have to lose fat all over my body.
Yeah. No,
So I don't know. Is that
I,
is that something you had heard before, Josh?
yeah, yeah, definitely, man. I think the worst thing that I hear about that is that, well, this only comes from girls because they always get scared of losing weight because they're like, oh, I'm gonna lose everything from my glutes. But I mean, it's like, yeah, you'll lose some of it, but you're not gonna lose it all. I think they think it as the opposite, like, oh, it's when I lose fat, it's only gonna be from the glutes. Like, no, it's gonna be from everywhere. I mean, yeah,
Well, I guess
yeah.
yeah, that's like the other side of the mindset is like someone intentionally trying to like shred belly fat so they can show their six pack, or someone who's nervous about cutting, specifically in your example, a woman who's nervous about like potentially losing her glute gains
Mm-hmm.
and just have like a skinny girl booty, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah. I mean, like, that cut gonna be crazy though, dude.
Cut going go crazy. That might that might be the name of
Yo,
or the
yo,
caption for the clip. Cut gon' go crazy.
yeah, yo, little booties matter too, man.
If you say so.
Yeah.
I'm just kidding. So I think the opposite of that, and this is definitely one that I know that you've heard this. This is a pretty common one. Similar idea, just the opposite way, is that weightlifting makes women bulky. No,
That's
boo,
facts.
wrong.
Facts. Bro,
That was wrong.
if they lift a dumbbell, bro, they're gonna be like C bum. One rep, boom, C bum automatically. Right? I mean,
Well, it's funny because I'll give credit
no, but
where it's
facts though.
due to someone on TikTok. I was just watching a video that made me laugh, so I'll reference it here. Essentially, the video, it was like a two-part video where it was like girls nervous to go to the gym because they're afraid they're gonna get bulky, and then the second part of the video was like it's that easy to put on muscle or something like that. Like putting on muscle is difficult. It's not easy to do. So for someone to think that they're going to work out for like a few days or a few weeks and all of a sudden they're going to be fucking built like a unit, like
Mm-hmm.
that's not the case at all. And the reality of it too is that generally vast majority of women aren't going to naturally, I'll say it, naturally have enough testosterone to even build up enough lean muscle to have that kind of physique. So that's why, like today, we're recording this on Saturday. Um, Today is literally the Olympia. Like that's why you see they have that entire category. Um, I forget which one it's called. I want to say maybe wellness, but I could be wrong. But they have the entire bikini category for women who are clearly on a shit ton of steroids.
No, they're
They're
natty,
literally
dude.
fucking no, they're literally fucking bigger than me and Josh. Like it's wild to see. But that's something that's the myth, right? That's the misconception, is they have to do a bunch of steroids to be able to even relatively look like that, because they don't have that amount of testosterone naturally where they would be able to bulk up like that.
You know, I'll give some more info on that. I guess the science way too is that, like, you know, because the way you build muscle too, or like how guys build muscle quicker than girls, is because of testosterone, and guys have literally like 19 times more testosterone. So like a female has to like work out more, like 19 times more than a dude naturally, to like even compete next to a guy, which is like, honestly, that's almost impossible because guys even struggle building muscle too sometimes. Like a female, I think naturally, like they're for sure like under 100. I forgot what the term is. There's like 100 mg or something of testosterone, and a normal guy's testosterone is like 500, dude, or like past that. Some dudes that are like in the higher end, because the range is really like broad.
Yeah, I thought it was like
Yeah,
500 to 900
but like
was like the normal range.
yeah, but then there's dudes that are like 800. Like imagine a girl trying to compete. Most girls I know are like around like the low like 10 to 50, and imagine her trying to compete with someone that's like 800. Like, bro, that's like a big range of the testosterone. So like, yeah, if you want to be almost as big as a guy, like it's definitely, you're gonna have to be unnatural.
Yeah, the normal range for a man in his 30s is between 300 to 1200 nanograms per
Nanograms.
deciliter.
Okay.
So yeah, that's a pretty wide range, and especially I just searched the average level. So like for it to be a range that big for the average,
That's how
I
it
think that's
is.
pretty
Yeah.
crazy. And then yeah, like you
Yeah.
said, that even that itself is more than the number you said for the average woman. So
Yeah.
again, it's just one of those things that biologically it's simply different. It's not better or worse one way or the other. It's just different.
Yeah, so like essentially it's almost impossible for a girl to get really bulky unless she's unnatural. Like, bro, she
My
need to be
point exactly.
yeah, she need to be going to the gym more than us. You know, six more than 6 times a day, like lifting crazy amount, and she still wouldn't be even close to our level. Yeah.
Well, that's another misconception that we have on the list here. More gym time equals more results. This is something I was definitely guilty of this when I was doing more of the bodybuilding training, and this will, excuse me,
Your excuse.
thank you so much.
You're welcome.
This will tie into another one of the myths of training to failure every set. So we kind of call this like no pain, no gain, right?
Hmm.
So kind of tying the time and the intensity together. The reason I was spending so long in the gym when I was bodybuilding is because I was beating the fuck out of my muscles. Every single muscle group, I did it every single exercise and every single variation and upper, middle, lower, outer, inner, this, that, the other thing, right? And I was in the gym for probably like 2.5 hours of like straight working out. And like I looked good, but it was the kind of thing where I always felt like I could look better. And what I realized over time through my own experience and kind of doing research, listening to other podcasts, reading articles online, is I was grossly overtraining. So I was training to a point where I was breaking down my muscles so much that I couldn't intake enough protein, sleep enough, get rid of all of that lactic acid in like an efficient way where I was able to convert everything into muscle. So it was the kind of thing where because I was overtraining, I was literally leaving gains on the table because I wasn't in my optimal recovery mode, if that makes sense.
Yeah. No, it does make sense because I think what happens too is that I think the misconception comes along with people that are unnatural because if you're unnatural, you could go to the gym because you're unnatural. You know, you can like train 3 hours like nothing. You can go 7 times a day, but that's only because they have a super amount of testosterone where they're able to. But if you're unnatural or like if you have like an average testosterone, like yeah, you're only gonna be able to go 4 to 6 times and train an hour and a half, and then that's like pushing it, or like even an hour too, depending on how hard you train. Um, but I definitely agree. Like right now, I've only been training, um, for 5 days a week, recently, and I honestly I feel really good. It's been really good to recover more, and I feel like my workouts are better, and I've been shortening my workouts too, because I used to do what Mike was doing too, like, well, especially when quarantine finished up here. I probably shouldn't say the whole word. I should. Wait, no, that's good. You have to say the C word. You got to be careful. YouTube friendly, dude. Because when the whole thing finished up and like everything kind of opened up, I was going to the gym like hard because I missed it for so long. Um, it took a while to burn out, but I definitely did eventually. But I don't know if I. It's kind of hard to gauge, if you really left gains on the table. Uh, but that's one of those things where you have to gauge how far you could push yourself too, because everybody's different. Like and me and Mike train together, and like one of us is gonna give out before the other. Like we're not gonna be able to train the same, same amount of reps, same amount of sets. So each person is
Well,
different.
I think that that's a very good point that you make. It's hard to know when you are leaving gains on the table, and to be honest, the main reason that I am even aware of it is because when I made the switch from like the bodybuilding style of training to signing on with Panda and I started powerlifting, I was only doing one main compound movement. If it was a single, I would do back downs. If it was volume, I would just do volume. And then I was doing one, maybe two accessory movements of just movements that would help my squat, bench, deadlift. And it was the kind of thing where obviously strength is a lot more objective than aesthetics, right? Like aesthetic is very subjective. That's been like the biggest like argument in the bodybuilding world, is it's all based on opinion, where strength is very much more objective, where it's like you either benched that or you didn't, you squatted that or you didn't, you deadlifted it or you didn't, right? So
Mm-hmm.
it is the kind of thing where I feel like I progressed very quickly when I first started powerlifting, but when I was at the end of bodybuilding, I felt like I was progressing very, very slowly. So it is the kind of thing, I know we've talked about like variety and novelty when it comes to like the style of working out, but it was the kind of thing in my experience, and this could just be me, so this could just be like a personal anecdote, but in my experience, as I've focused more on strength, muscle building and strength are directly correlated. So as I've focused more on strength, I've also noticed improvements in my physique when it comes to muscle shape and muscle mass. It's going to be the kind of thing where, unless I intentionally go on a cut, I'm never going to get to as low as a body fat level as I was when I was bodybuilding, because I was literally walking around at like sub 10% body fat, which I felt awful just throwing that out there. But again, it's the kind of thing where I also alleviated a lot of the frustration of the subjectiveness of the physique, where I still obviously have body dysmorphia. I call myself small and weak and all that shit. Every gym rat does it, but it's a lot less. Like I feel a lot better about my lifts and stuff like that, because again, it's more objective and I've seen myself progressing. So it's like directly tied to my mental health, like, and how I feel and my mood and things like that.
You know what? I was actually gonna say that there is actually a way to test out to see if you kind of leave gains on the table, is like doing one of those in-body scans, because this is how I knew like my training, maybe I was kind of overtraining, or because before I started, well, like beginning of my cut, I was actually still working out like 2 hours, but then I started going down slowly because I started doing more cardio, and I noticed my skeleton muscle didn't really go down that much. It like pretty much stayed the same, but I lost body fat. So I worked out less, but I stayed the same pretty much with my muscle. So I bet if there's a way to test it, like if I did more of a workout and I worked out like 7 days and like 2 hour workouts, if I saw my skeleton muscle go down somehow, I guess that's the way to know that you're overtraining. Or if it doesn't really make a difference, like if it stays the same, it's like damn, you put in that extra work of going like 7 times, working out 2 hours plus, and your muscle stayed the same. It's like, okay, then it's like pointless. You could just, why do the extra work when you can work out less, right? So
Yep, exactly. And a lot of, in my experience at least, a lot of Gold's gyms, I can't speak for other gyms. This is the only place I've really seen it. A lot of Gold's gyms, but then occasionally some supplement shops have like those body scan, like the Nexus body scans, where it can tell you your muscle mass. It actually, when I took mine, I realized I had a quad imbalance. So my right quad was a little more dominant than my left quad, which once I found that out, I definitely noticed it, like when I would be in my squat, when I was getting towards like later set, like later reps in the set, I definitely felt my right leg kind of pushing a little harder than my left leg. So I was like, damn, that
mhm.
body scan was super helpful to know that I have the imbalance. So then I started doing uh like some unilateral movements to kind of even out the imbalance over time too. So those body scans are super helpful, and
Yeah,
they have a lot of like very useful information if you know how to like translate it and kind of correlate it, put it into your actual routine.
yeah, no, everybody should definitely do it, because I know, well, the ones you buy on Amazon, I don't know how accurate they are for the muscle. I bet that's like it's most likely off. Like you definitely want to go to a supplement store, like Mike said, or someone's a gym or something to definitely get it more accurate. Because even those could be a little bit off. Like you have to make sure you go like hungry. Like you have to go fasted. You can't work out. Like there's a bunch of rules too. Like you don't want to drink any liquids to like mess up the whole gauge. Like so.
Oh, I didn't know all that. Maybe I messed up my scan.
It's probably a little off. Like if you want it like exactly accurate, it's like you want to wake up, hit the bathroom, and not drink any liquids or anything, and go straight there. Yeah, because even working out can kind of mess it up too.
No, I
Yeah.
definitely did it before my workout. Honestly, this was like over a year ago, so I could have done all that stuff. I just don't remember. But again, it was at the gym, and the woman who did it like clearly knew her shit. So my assumption is she probably told us to do that.
Yeah, well, I mean, the only way you're gonna really know if it's inaccurate if like when today you go in, you ate breakfast and like you go with liquids, you get tested, and you go the next day without that, go fasted. Like that's the only way you're gonna really know it's inaccurate. So yeah, everybody
For
should do it
sure.
though, man. Everybody should definitely do it.
Oh yeah, highly recommend the body scan. It will tell you a lot.
Yeah, game changer.
Perfect. And so from there, another one. This is something that I feel like for sure a misconception, more on the side of, I guess, like inconsistency. Like a lot of people either don't commit to going to the gym because they know they have like something coming up. And so they're like, oh, when that thing happens, like I'll go after that, because going to the gym like leading up to whatever that, like a vacation or something, right? They think leading up to that is pointless because they're going to lose muscle. What a lot of people don't understand, it takes a long time. So muscle atrophy is the scientific term for the process of muscle breaking down and losing muscle. It takes for most people about 2 weeks for muscle atrophy to even start. So you literally maintain what you're at for those 2 weeks. Um, the reason why a lot of people, like for example, I know this happens to Mark all the time, where he gets sick because he has a little weak boy immune system, but
Mm-hmm.
um, he gets sick, and then like 3 days later he goes to the gym and he's like, "Why am I so weak?" It's not because he lost muscle. It's because during those 3 days of being sick, he probably didn't eat as many calories as he would on a normal day. So he doesn't have those carbs turning to glycogen, turning to energy, blah, 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 so on and so forth. So people blame not being as strong, or that feeling of like quote unquote weakness, they blame that on the time that they missed, when in reality it's because that during that time they missed, they probably weren't at the same caloric intake level as they normally would, because again, building muscle will increase your metabolism, and you need more calories in to sustain and maintain that muscle. So again, people just don't understand. I think that people think they lose muscle a lot faster than they actually do.
Yeah, you know what? I think a majority of people do know this now, especially with the like I was saying with the whole quarantine thing. Like if anybody lifted before quarantine and they went back to the gym, like they realize how they didn't really lose too much of their muscle, or like they, like muscle memory, like you gain the muscle back pretty quickly. Like even me myself, I noticed that like I didn't really lose. I lost muscle for sure because it was such a long time, but you also kind of gained it back pretty quick. Also,
Yeah, and I will say exactly to your point, it's the kind of thing where if you take time off, like you can't expect yourself to just dive back into where you were. But at the
yeah.
same time, whenever I have like an extended period of time where I'm not lifting, or I'm not doing like the core squat, bench, deadlift movements for powerlifting, it is the kind of thing where I feel like it only takes 1 or 2 weeks of rotation for me to get back to where I was before that I had taken that hiatus, whatever reason it was that I wasn't working out in that manner or during that time. Right. So it is the kind of thing where it does work back up pretty quickly. It's just another one of those, I guess, like same mentality when it comes to most other things in the gym. Patience is a virtue. You're not going to miss 3 weeks of working out and then like expect yourself to bench the same amount. Like it's just a ridiculous mindset to have. But at the same time, you're probably also not going to lose as much as you probably think you would, which is the misconception of how long it takes to actually for muscle atrophy to actually kick in.
I mean, pretty much it took me 30 minutes to get back into the groove of it. That's how long it
30
took.
minutes, yeah,
Yeah.
and then all of a sudden you were just
Boom, baby.
boom.
Yeah, I just needed to warm up, get the blood flowing.
Nice.
Mm-hmm.
You are built different, my friend.
Yeah.
Um, okay, cool. So I think we only got a couple left. I'm sure there's a lot more out there, but this is
We're
definitely a
getting the
good
most
one. And
important ones, you know? Because there's a lot of myths. Too much.
yeah, I mean, we
Yeah.
could be here all day. There's a whole show called Mythbusters. Like they wouldn't have a job if there wasn't a lot of myths.
Yeah.
Um, cool. So I digress. This is a good one. I hear this a lot actually. I feel like this one in recent time has started to get debunked. Cardio is the only way to lose weight. I have
What?
called bullshit on this for a while. Um, they've come out with a lot of studies recently that the most effective way to lose weight and to lose fat is a combination. Number one, diet is always going to be most important, hands down, because this goes with another misconception I'll get into in a minute. So number one is diet. Um, Number two is going to be strength training, right? So we've talked about building muscle will speed up your metabolism, therefore intrinsically burning fat. It's just like a indirect effect of building muscle. And then number three is low intensity, steady state cardio. And if you can do it inclined, phenomenal. People think you need to run miles and miles to like sweat and burn all this fat and burn all these calories. You really don't. You just need a combination of those three things and you'll be on point for fat loss. And then eventually, if you're deep enough in a calorie deficit for consistently enough, that's when you'll also see the weight loss as well.
Well, also, let's say for shits and giggles, cardio was the only way to burn fat. It would be pretty much impossible to burn all the calories you would eat in the day. Like almost impossible, depending on like what you eat. Because a fitness YouTuber did this. He like had like a cheat day, like oh like eating donuts and stuff like that, and he counted all the calories, and then I believe the next day yeah, I'm pretty sure it was the next day. I don't think he did it the same day. The next day, he tried to burn all those calories. So let's say it was like 2,500 calories he ate, of this old junk food. He tried to burn it off, but he was stuck doing cardio and all this stuff for the whole day, and he didn't even get close because he had a tracker, to track the calories he burned, and it wasn't even close to like the amount he ate. I don't remember the amount, but it was like he had to give up because he couldn't reach it. Like it was like night, it was dark out, and he just couldn't even like continue because it's like impossible, really. So
In a whole day, how many calories did he like roughly? I know you say you don't remember exactly.
well,
Like
like uh
doing cardio the whole day, what did that equate to?
I don't know. I think it might have been 15, maybe 2,000. I don't even think it was 2,000, but the amount he ate, it could have been higher too. Like because he had like a whole cheat day. Like junk food. Like I said, donuts. Like donuts add up, bro. Like one donut could be like 500. So I don't remember the amount he ate. Uh, but I think he tried to keep it reasonable. Try to like have a regular kind of like cheat day, nothing like too crazy where he's eating like McFlurries and all that stuff in one sitting. But yeah, it was. I don't think it was past 2,000. and he did like different cardio things too. Like it wasn't just like running. He did like swimming, like running, stairmaster, biking, like all this other variants because he did it all day. So he like switched it up, and he couldn't do it. So
Damn,
yeah.
that's crazy. Like, yeah, I don't know. That's that's fucked.
So that's why you want
Okay,
to
well,
keep.
that guy's a
That's
savage.
yeah. I mean, so you want to keep your calories low so you can actually, you know, get to a reasonable amount where you can kind of burn. Because I mean, if you're in a calorie deficit, of course you're gonna burn fat, and like automatically, not even doing cardio, your day to day task. But you know, it could be a double whammy if you do cardio and all this strict training and all this other stuff.
Yep, exactly. So I think that kind of reiterates my point of those big 3 points of the triangle. Um, Ranking them in order again, nutrition is going to be number one when it comes to weight loss, fat loss, strength, and then strength training over cardio in importance. I know that's the quote unquote controversial statement, but the studies are backing it up. Um, but I think that that goes into the last one I have on the list. I don't know if Josh has any written down on his end, but um, these two kind of go hand in hand, and they go into the idea that we've been talking about on the nutrition side of things. So this is something that I've preached for a very long time. It was something I had to kind of learn for myself the hard way as well, but probably in the opposite way of most people. So, exercise can compensate for poor diet choices. This is wrong. The reality is that diet and exercise, like we talk about, they go hand in hand. Your diet and your exercise goals are very closely related, and they should both be taken into consideration when you're programming. You can't really program one without the other. You want them both to get you going in the same direction, right? Like you're not going to say, I'm trying to get stronger and then go into a crazy deficit. So it's the kind of thing, the saying that I heard that really stuck with me is you can't outwork a bad diet. So if your
Bro,
diet
spitting,
is
dude.
not on point, if your diet is not
Bars.
on point, again, you're not going to add that muscle mass. You're not going to shred that fat. Like whatever your goal is, like working out wise, you want to make sure that your diet is also pointing you in a direction to reach those goals too.
I mean, that literally just go back to like what I was saying too earlier about that guy, the YouTuber that couldn't even burn out the food he ate. But and also another study too is that you know, like a regular workout sesh, you know, like lifting, weightlifting, like the most, it depends like what you do, of course, and how hard you train. But like they did a study, like the most you could burn is like 400 to 500 calories in like a workout session, like a 2 hour like weightlifting session. And that's like, I mean, it is a decent amount, but that's like the max. Like, definitely most people aren't pushing themselves that hard to like burn that many calories. And even 400, I mean, it's not a big significant that you can just like eat whatever you want to, you know, like what Mike was saying, like 400, like you can easily overeat that.
And I feel like people don't understand that there are so many things that your body has a limit on. Like there's only so much protein that your body can digest and perform protein synthesis and so on and so forth. Right? Like there's only so much fat your body can burn. There's only so much fat that your body can intake. So there's a lot of things like to Josh's point, there's only so much calories you can burn in a specific amount of time. So most of these things get to a certain point where it's considered overdoing it. And the difference between it is there are going to be some things where overdoing it doesn't seem like that big of a deal. Like, for example, when I mentioned earlier I was overtraining, I still looked good, so it didn't seem like that big of a deal. When in reality, the negative aspect of it was overtraining in that sense. I was putting myself at a much higher risk of injury because I wasn't recovering in the way that I should have let my body recover. So it's the kind of thing where even though it doesn't seem like it may have like that negative of a short-term effect, long term it's something that can kind of stack up, compound, and then all of a sudden everything hurts and you're constantly getting hurt, and then you can't even go to the gym, which is the thing that you probably love if you listen to a podcast that's strictly about going to the gym.
Yeah, facts. But otherwise, I don't really have anything else to add to this or to any more myths because we pretty much got the main myths, the main big ones. Uh, there's always small myths too, where like filming lifts makes your lifts go heavier. Like that's a myth for sure too. Or like
Who
once
said that?
or once you start lifting, you're gonna always feel small. I mean, that could be another myth too. So
that's
or
that's
another
bro science
yeah
though. Isn't that
yeah
Dom Mazzetti?
that could be that very much could be him. No, that is him. Uh, every day's our day. Definitely not every day is arm day.
These are some good ones you're
Yeah.
spitting.
Or like, leg drive gives you bigger legs, like that's also a myth right there too.
Or like when your doctor tells you to chill on lifting, but I'm an animal and the last time I checked you're not a vet.
I don't know. That's a myth actually. That could be facts.
All right,
Yeah.
cool. So before we close it out, any last thoughts?
You know what? I don't know if this is a myth because I think everybody's a little different on this. Like, like you want to, you dress good, you feel good. Some people dress shitty and they'll like lift really heavy weight. Like I'm kind of thinking about like Sam. Like that food just wears like a oversized tee and like joggers. Like, like someone if someone wore that outfit, like they will probably feel bad about themselves. So they might not lift as much, but other people like might wear that fit and feel great about themselves.
Yeah, I think it's all a mentality thing. So the saying that Josh is referencing is look good, feel good, lift good.
Yeah, exactly. Thanks. But
Got you, brother.
yeah. So like, somebody can just wear like a shirt from the Baby Gap.
All right,
and
you're getting too deep, bro.
and like lift some heavy ass weight and someone else might not feel good in that fit.
All right, I'm gonna close it out on that note.
That was a good note to leave on.
All right, well, thank you as always for tuning in. Probably know by now we're going to be dropping new episodes every Thursday morning on YouTube and wherever you get your podcasts, Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Buzzsprout. Get the link on our Instagram. Make sure to like, comment, follow, subscribe. However you're watching or listening, we appreciate your support. I'm Mike.
And I'm Josh.
Make sure to keep making those sweet gains. Keep living life unracked, baby. Let's go.
And like the fucking video.